Ladies and gentlemen, next we will start our panel discussion. I'm also your moderator today. As you can see, the future of work is now very different. I have to be both the host, MC, and the moderator. So I think
multitasking.
Different panelists already. I think we can jump straight to the panel topic. I think I saw a report by the World Economic Forum. It states that close to half of the work in the next 3 years might become irrelevant and some reskilling is needed. And that was pre-COVID. Now with COVID-19, we see that the millions of jobs have been decimated, but we are also seeing new jobs created, especially those related to health services or those related to e-commerce. So today's panel discussion, I think, is very timely. I think my first question will be to Patrick. I know that you just now mentioned briefly about the future of learning. So I want to ask you, how has learning changed in the past 5 years or past 5 months? What do you predict will happen in the next 5 to 10 years? Patrick, please.
Yeah, thanks, Hock Lai. Just want to elaborate a bit more about my sharing earlier. I think in the last 5 years, we have been focusing a lot at industry level. I alluded to the industry transformation maps. I also alluded to all the cluster sector efforts in trying to upskill, upgrade our workforce. And of course, a lot of efforts with our CET centers. In fact, our IHLs, we've strengthened the CET bits of it across all our IHLs. I think that we've been doing quite a lot of this in Singapore. But of course, the last 6 months has turned everything into we have to go and change our existing mental models and really learn how to pivot. And we have seen industries actually go downhill. Companies go downhill because either because the sectors are badly hit or they are unable to pivot and really change their business models and business strategies. So I think I won't really look at the past, but I try to look at future. I think definitely the way we learn, the way we pick up things are going to be much faster. I think Annie loves this word, and I love it too. It's called speed to market. I think we really need to have that speed to market. It's now become should I say, a digital imperative of sorts. Because we really need to see we really don't know what's going to happen next. In the last 5 months alone, you see new announcements, new rules, new advisories, and everyone having to grapple with all these changes without being able to have the luxury of a crystal ball to look at what's going to happen in the next 3-5 years. So the crystal ball is becoming more blurred and unclear. So I think, but we are still humans, yeah. Everyone is still human. Every organization still needs to carry on and want to thrive. So I think it's how to have that level of agility, adaptability, and at the same time also the agility to navigate some of these choppy waters. And I've seen personally, I don't mention company names, I've seen companies that are in industries which are in the doldrums, but being able to pivot, being able to get their workforce up to speed through learning really on the go. Learning on the go. So I think the future of learning will really be learning on the go. Yeah, anywhere, anytime, really picking up the necessary knowledge, the ideas, the skills to be able to innovate, to be able to, to stay afloat amidst this very, very, very stormy, or should I say, choppy waters. So I think the future learning, definitely, we talked about it, micro-learning, blended learning, digital learning. But I think increasingly more important is really knowing and reacting to some of these new changes and changing landscape and things that are happening around us. So I think that learning on the go, it's going to be the order of the day for the new work agenda.
Thank you, Patrick. My next question is for Prof. Annie. I know you have been a strong proponent of the new work agenda. You sit in a committee in the World Economic Forum on the future of work. So what effect has technology and COVID made on the work agenda, and how does it give rise to the new work agenda? Please define what is a new work agenda to us.
Thank you very much, Hock Lai. First of all, thank you and congratulations both to GFI, to AMTD, and to all my education enthusiasts. I think all of you have education in your blood, and you spoke so passionately that our life is about learn, work, learn, and work. And there's no retiring, Patrick. All right, every individual should come back to retire and not to retire. So you come back and retire because you can go on and on. There are different roles. And just now, we teased Hock Lai that he's both MC and moderator, because that's another new work agenda. You need to have job redesign, and there's now multitasking. And in fact, in one of the conversation I had on a panel like this, I actually shared that there is no longer really a need to write a job description, because a JD confines you. You can actually find that your job role will evolve, pivot, revolve over a lifetime. And what got you into a job today might have to change along the way because the needs change. So your question was spot on, Hock Lai. The new work agenda requires 3 angles. Every individual should take ownership for their own learning. I am so encouraged when I hear that Patrick says he learned about backdrops. We have a lot of people who are actually taking on free courses. And, I have a staff here who actually found that, he has to look at a lot of data, but he doesn't know Tableau. And so he signed up for Tableau and he said, can I give him sponsorship? I said, yes, because we need, all right, the second variable, which is the employer. I think if you have enthusiastic employees who want to learn, please open opportunities for them. So that's my second O. The opportunities are enormous. I think you have online courses, you have SSG, which is our Skills Future subsidized courses. And we have been talking about lifelong learning for 3 years when SSG is set up. But COVID in the last 8 months have accelerated the whole process, because as Patrick said earlier, many of our industries are getting disrupted big time. You will have needs in healthcare. You have tremendous needs on e-commerce. So they are short of talent. And then you have big sectors, the hospitality, tourism, where you're getting a lot of unemployment. So this balance, it's got to close, because we have people who need jobs. And jobs is not just because of a living. Jobs gives you, it gives you a reason for existence in many ways. And if we don't create enough jobs, it's going to be a failure of society, not government, but society. So I think the new work agenda requires you to come together with options. And that's where this whole panel is about. I see industry players like AMTD, I see government representatives like Patrick, I see associations like Hock Lai, and I see individuals in the audience. And all of us say, we want to learn. Give us the opportunity, give us the option. And of course, government has been doing a lot of it, but I think individual got to take ownership, because it's not going to be anyone owing you a living. You yourself should power up and say, I can take ownership. The options are available. The opportunities are out there, and employers need to be responsive and responsible. So please come on board. In a little while, when David and I shared about what if I have a formal education, what if I don't have a formal education, do I get a chance to learn about FinTech? Absolutely. I'm sure between David, Hock Lai, and the community, those options are open to everyone. Thank you, Hock Lai. Sorry, all right, I should talk very fast because I got so much to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Annie. I think it's time for a little bit of interactivity with our audience. Yeah, I would like to do a poll now on what Prof. Annie has talked about the new work agenda. So I would like to ask the audience, which new work agenda you like best, or you like all of them? Yeah. So we have
hosts and panelists cannot vote. I was trying to click my button.
Let's wait for a few more seconds.
Okay, anyway, while we are waiting for it, I just want to jump in. Because
Okay.
Annie spoke earlier about taking ownership. I want to just share that in the last 5-10 years, um, in fact, the mental model of the government has shifted quite a bit. If we all remember, of those of us who are young enough, will know that we have always been on an employer-based, employer-supported model. So actually, thanks to Skills Future, we have really shifted. In fact, this year, if you noticed, in the 4 rounds of budget, a very major sharp shift from a purely employer-based model to an individual initiated model through providing Skills Future credit. Now you can access a surrogate employer to go for training. You can go for various programs like the PCP and of course many of the adult learning options offered by a CET. So I think I must say I get a lot of feedback from our ASEAN and Asian partners as well that in Singapore we have an ecosystem that is strongly supportive of individual initiated training. So I think it augurs well for us to take ownership. So I just wanted to chime in on this development. I think we are not lack of resources in the areas of training. It's now getting us to really come forward. Yeah, so everything is there. The fruit is on the table. Just partake of it.
Yeah, but don't treat it like a buffet. All right.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So you must know what you want and what you want to be, and then you select. And that's why that specialization that Kelvin talked about, learn to do it and do it well, do it deep and not just cursorily. Yeah. Sorry. The poll results, please.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so Prof. Annie, good news is that all of the above, most of us like the option, but I also see a very good balance in terms of taking one's individual ownership and also employers to also create more diverse opportunities for employees. Okay, my next question is for Prof. David Lee. How can we make a substantial difference in advancing the new work agenda? Prof. David?
Yeah, right. First of all, it's really great to have everybody on the panel, especially Annie, who's always very lively. But in response to the new work agenda, I think I'm just speaking from the perspective of GFI, is we need to, first of all, be very clear of the apparent direction, what we are trying to achieve collectively. I think once we clear about the direction, then we can offer the varieties and options from GFI perspective, and this is what we will bear in mind constantly. The second thing is that we have to ensure that it's relevant and complementary to existing education service providers. I think that's important because the GFI is here to fill the gap, and we need to have a very clear explanation how we are going to add value and fill this gap. I think that is another thing that I think GFI will be very focus on that. And thirdly, we need to also look at the strategic value, which is crucial for business. I think the value proposition to the business is very important because the businesses need to know that with all this training and so on, what is the value proposition for them? Okay, so we need to advocate where the opportunities geographically. Is it in financial center? Is it there more opportunities in emerging market? Where are the customers? Where are the new business model that eventually will then employ our students and also the qualifier, and also which segment? Where are we talking about? Is this for example, the upper echelon of the wealth pyramid, or is it the middle or the bottom? I think we need to be very clear about the strategic value proposition to the business that they will then give them sustainable income that they will be able to continue to grow with new models and new customer. And the fourth and the last one is actually extend beyond learning and ensure that both the individual and the companies feel that they are empowered. If they are not empowered, then our qualification has got not much value to them. Knowing that the skill set and acquiring them, as well as forming a professional network. And this is what GFI needs to do, to share who are those that can execute and then deliver. We need to know among our network who are those who can execute and deliver, especially among the GFIs and the partners. So I will actually summarize in I like acronym, so I will summarize as DKEEN. Okay, DIKEEN. You know, you have to be very keen about this. The D stands for direction. We need to identify the direction, and you know, telling people where exactly the direction is, and this is what GFI will try to do. And then we need to identify the skill set to fulfill that collaboration towards the direction. And then that's D and I. K is knowledge acquisition. Then once we know what sort of skill set, we need to have the knowledge acquisition. Then we have to think of another E, which is empowerment, right? DIKE, empowerment, to empower them with that. And also then the next E is to execute by collaborating. We need to advocate collaboration with the network and so on. And therefore the final one is network expansion. How do we expand this network, not only just in the country, but you know, entirely to many, many countries, to Africa, to South America, to ASEAN, you know, to countries that which are going and can give us a new business model and new customer. So I will end by saying that it's DIKEEN. So I hope you can remember that this is our type of mission that we are focusing on. Thank you, Hock Lai.
Thanks, David. Next I would like to ask Kevin the question that I see that the AMTD has been involved in quite a number of educational initiatives and focus a lot on talents. Can you describe more and introduce your thinking around this, and how does it help to advance the new work agenda? Kevin, please.
Sure, Hock Lai. I think as I described also at the during my earlier speech, I think education represents something very important. I think in terms of my philosophy of developing and also building AMTD. So I think especially that AMTD is a financial services focused company. So I think for financial services industry, I think talents are the most key. But then as we talk about it, I think talents, you know, are not talking about talents with only, you know, the skill sets for today, but we need the talents, you know, with the necessary skills and also the preparation, I think, for tomorrow. So I think as we see that, you know, now that if we talk about financial services or into FinTech, I mean, there are many different sub-verticals, many, you know, specialty areas. So I think it will be very much important that, you know, as we talk through it, you know, and Annie and Patrick, we talk about it, I think it's not just about learning or, you know, having the right mode of blended basis of model, but, you know, all these are contributing, I think, to very deep learning, specialized areas of upskill and preparation, I think, for talents, you know, so that I think they can face the newer challenges, but also to navigate, I think, in the new world. So I think last week, we announced the setup of a permanent center of cybersecurity in Singapore. And this will promote, I think, lots of awareness towards the topic, cyber data, you know, and overall. But I think more importantly, I think, is to support the building, developing of cyber talents in Singapore and beyond that. I think when we set it up, you know, in a way, I think you know, quite similar to, I think, what we discussed, you know, during the panel. I think the new norm is that we need to, you know, the blended basis is not just for the mode of learning. It's also in terms of, you know, the different inputs and also the components combining up, you know, for the necessary program or the preparation that we talk about it. So we see that, I think, the new world, as we talk about it, I think the skill sets will be more comprehensive. While I think today we need more specialized skill sets areas, I think for the FinTech and also for different other innovative and tech areas. But I think, you know, into the future, as from the different specialty areas into one combined form, I think it will be very much a holistic and connected manner. So this is also, I think, the thinking of AMTD focusing into digital, that we want to build one connected digital solutions platform. So I think coincide with this, I think for talents, we also have a strong belief in the same. That's why I think the partnership with GFI come at the right time, that we want to see a very comprehensive professional destination program to best prep the every talent, I think, for the new world.
Thank you, Kevin. My next question is for Patrick. I note that you took care of the financial services cluster within the NTUC. And we know that financial services is one of the largest sector contributing to the GDP of Singapore, close to 13%, if I remember correctly, and employs about 200,000 in this industry. So what is the biggest challenge faced by workers in the financial services sector, especially for the PMEs at the moment? Patrick, please.
Yeah, thanks. I think the financial services sector, in a way, in the last couple of years, I would say we are a bit ahead of the curve, because now every sector, every company, every organization is going to digital space. I know the financial sector, particularly some of the leading organizations, have already started that journey the last 5 to 8 years. And I'm glad that in a way, the financial sector has navigated COVID-19 and the challenges that it's brought about slightly better than many other industries. So I think we have gone quite a lot into the digital space. But I think this also means that the entire disruption process, as what Annie mentioned earlier, has been accelerated. Accelerated not just by a small pace, but really by leaps and bounds. I think a lot of the financial institutions are relooking at the digital agenda beyond just transformation, but really looking at this new concept, the low-touch economy, and the fact that there are a lot of new opportunities. I think in the last 6-7 months, the e-commerce space, I think the digital space have really exploded in more ways than one. And I think looking at how the local economic conditions, regional economic conditions, as well as global economic conditions are panning out, it looks like this is going to be the new way of work, and of course the next normal. And definitely the digital space and digital agenda will be a big one, a very big one. And I do see a lot of new opportunities. But a big challenge, I think, is having the necessary skills, not just the necessary skills, but the right skills for some of these new opportunities. We talked about, I alluded to the digital banks that are coming up. I suspect a lot of the new jobs are going to be created, particularly with this entire pandemic, and of course in the financial sector, and of course in the FinTech space, will be people with a multi-domain expertise. At the same time, also a lot of deep tech talents that are required. So I'm glad many of our IHLs are really accelerating their training and educating of the workforce, not just the workforce, but also fresh school leavers in this area of tech, STEM, as well as not just tech, it's also deep tech. So I think, but again, there will be some time before we get many of these of our students into the working world. So there's a lot of efforts, therefore, in trying to train many of those workers who may have very strong experience and domain expertise, as well as adjacent skills and knowledge and experiences to embrace some of these learning. So that's why the focus on CET and many of these learning platforms, including I know GFI is going for this accreditation process. I think it's good. It's the right step forward because we really need a lot of new skills, people with the new skills to embrace some of these new jobs and new opportunities that will be sprouting out. In fact, some of these are already sprouting out. If you look at many of the jobs portals and space, really, I speak to many headhunters as well. Many are looking at really digital talent. So this one big space that they will augur well. But I think more importantly, to ensure our workers and many of our PMEs who are in this space to be able to stay ready, relevant, and resilient. Why? Because I think some of these new skills are going to be not so easy to pick up. I tried picking up some of these skills. Wow, it's really quite a mouthful. It's not easy. But I think with the right mindset and the right attitude, we will be able to equip many more of our workers to ensure they stay employed and employable.
Thanks, Patrick. My next question is for Professor David Lee. Yeah, so we see that now there are some gaps in both learning and work. We hear a lot about speak to market. We hear that, I mean, at least the audience, they prefer to take ownership of their learning, but they also like their employers to participate in helping them cope with the new mode of learning and working. So, Prof. David, how can CFTP address some of these gaps so that the candidates can face the future effectively?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. How would actually the employer create opportunity, as well how would the workers respond? So from the CFTP perspective, we will actually have to show that there is a value proposition. And we need to be very focused on the framework with three primary objectives in mind. Basically is to empower the candidate or qualified profession to have that kind of contribution to the company. So the employer immediately can see what's the value of having this person in a company and why we should sponsor them to do CFTP. And I have three areas that I would like to emphasize. One is that CFTP need to empower the candidate to be a tech analyst. By a tech analyst, I don't mean them becoming a developer or they are actually building any software from scratch or they are a code auditor. I mean that they need to know what tech can and cannot do. I think there's a very basic knowledge that in the digital transformation that people need to know what tech can and cannot do. And in our syllabus and our curriculum, it's very important in terms of the ethics. What harm and good can the tech do? This is important as well. This has to do with regulation. And when you go and have a business into emerging market, if you're doing good, you'll be welcome with red carpet. But however, you are dealing with a lot of other harmful technology, then I think the road will be blocked. So ethics is very important, that we need to ensure that when they become a tech analyst, they need to know what tech can and cannot do and how this tech can do good. Secondly, we need to ensure that we empower them to become business strategists, because a lot of bosses, despite the fact that they want to transform themselves, they are really in need of trying to ask the question of how can my business be transformed? You know, what is the value proposition for me? Is it just digitizing information, or is it digitalization that you can transform my business model? But how do I do it? So the CFTP professional to be has also to become a business strategist, okay, a digital business strategist, knowing what can be harnessed to transform existing business models to new sustainable ones. Because from a businessman's perspective, I want a sustainable business. I do not want to spend money to send people to training. At the end of the day, there's no value proposition for me. So CFTP has to achieve that purpose, and how to use technology to build new business models for new customers. Because the existing customer, as you can see, has been overserved. But there are a lot of customers which are excluded. And generally, a lot of people are asking the question that usually at the middle or lower wealth pyramid, they pay higher charges than people like us. So the question is that why are we not serving people who are paying higher charges? The answer is always that because there were no technology available. So now there's technology available. Then the question is what sort of technology available that we can serve this underserved customer and that's not being served, and in big numbers. So if you think along that line as a business strategist, then you will be able to have a value proposition, and you will be able to get the right people for the right job, and also that you can then tell your bosses that this is the direction we want to go. Okay, and the last one is to empower them to become project manager, because even you know what technology can do and you can harness it for your business model, but there's nobody who can execute. So knowing how to execute and form a network of like-minded people, okay, that will collaborate and learn how to risk manage a project is the key. So the underlying principles, they are still business, they are still finance, they are still marketing. If you walk into any of the tech company, the top 10, top 100 tech companies, only 30% are computer engineers. Only 10% are computer scientists. The other 70% are business students, are auditors, are lawyers. They are still the same. The only thing is that they need to know what tech can and cannot do, what is the ethics behind this, and they need to know what is the strategy in response to this digital transformation. And the most important is that when we want to execute, who are the people who can execute this? So GFI, the purpose of this CFTP is to fill this gap. And it's important that we focus on these three. Hopefully we can perform our role in filling the gap. So thank you, Hock Lai.
Thank you, Prof. David. In short, with CFTP, you can become a digital analyst, be able to formulate a digital transformation strategy, and also be able to execute the strategy well. Okay, before we go to the next question, I want to do a poll. Yep, get ready. Yes, okay, so the poll question is, do you think the current learning models by universities are outdated?
And Hock Lai, while waiting for people to answer that poll, all right, I want to point to two questions. One of them will be very relevant for your next question for us. I think Hanish was asking, how should graduating students from IHL prepare for the future of work and grasp new opportunities? I'd like to take that question afterwards, if I may.
In fact, while the poll is undergoing, maybe you can address now.
Okay, good. So thank you very much. I don't think you can get rid of universities, but I think universities must respond to the demands from the market. And, I think many universities are trying and doing it, but I want to say that 11 years ago in SMU, so I have to tell you about SMU, we actually launched an international trading track which sits under the finance major. And what we make it different is, other than credit courses, we also allow the students to take a course for credit, which is offered by the Institute of Chartered Shippers. So it is called shipping business, and is counted towards the professionalization when they graduate and then enter into the industry. So I think the way for universities to respond to make their IHL students relevant is you have to work closer with the industry. So if you have the CFTP certification, that can be owned by yourself, or it could be coupled with courses that are existing in the finance majors in the 4 universities. And that's what David was trying to say. So if you sign up for a course in NUS, in NTU, in SUSS, they are already clogging the advanced credits, which is needed for you to get your CFTP. So that brings the two together. So I think in many ways, that's the reason why we have a program like this from GFI. David, jump in. I know he's ready to say something.
Yes, I think precisely. If you look back in time, actually, Prof. Koh has always been working on this front. I think in 2015 in Stanford, we have the Smart Nation, conference. So back in those days, and then NUS, they have the NUS Enterprise. If you visit them in Silicon Valley, you can see that there are many startups. So the universities in Singapore are actually way ahead of the curve in this. But as Prof. Koh is saying, is that this is a tsunami, as Patrick was saying, this is a tsunami. And we always talk about the word digital divide. And digital divide meaning is that if you look at the investment market, there is a digital divide. You see all the tech companies, prices are actually rising very quickly. Fundraising is so easy for some of these tech companies, and and technology is raising 220 billion just like that, but if you look at the other end, all the traditional business from travel to banks and all the stocks, and so they are going the other direction. So the clear thing is that it is not just about digital transformation. This is the 4th industrial revolution, and that means that there is a very small group of people who have information and skill set and business model that the rest do not have. And because of that, the acceleration of knowledge in this small group of people are actually moving ahead very quickly. Every time I go to China, I come back, I feel that I'm another 3-4 years behind. Doesn't mean that Singapore is not moving fast enough. It's just that this is a tsunami that they are moving in a lightning speed. So the question is that how do you then disseminate this information? And it is not the university that is not catching up. They are. I can assure you, because I work with 4 different universities, we are working very hard behind the scene. And if you look at the academic council, everybody is working very hard. And Patrick is shaking, nodding, because he knows that how hard we have been working behind. But that speed of transformation is, nobody has seen it before, because I don't think many people have seen the 3rd industrial revolution, let alone the 4th industrial revolution. And when that hits us, then we need to really crowdsource wisdom, collaborate. And this is why GFI is being set up. In a sense, it's university agnostic. It is about like-minded people coming together and willing to crowdsource wisdom, putting our head and energy together, because we have a very important duty, a responsibility out there to ensure that this gap is being filled, so that we can actually catch up with the few companies. And otherwise, we'll have a situation that the digital divide is going to be more and more and more. So it is a mission. It's a mission not only for GFI, but a mission for everybody to join us to get to fill this gap as much as possible, working with all the giants and working with everyone who wants to do that. But we need to show the direction, very clear about that. So I think this is what we can work together. I hope Annie will agree with me on that.
Agree. And now I'm curious to see whether they think the universities are still relevant or not. Hock Lai. Yes, they still think we are still relevant. No, and I'm sure we are all learning. And I think, yeah, and actually, you know, there's another question, Hock Lai, that you might want to get, you know, Kelvin to answer.
Yeah. Which question you are referring to?
The one that, how do you, wait.
Partnership.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Okay. So basically the question is asking how.
Shang-Run's question, yeah.
Yeah, so how does all the partnerships that the AMTD have with CFTP, with RC, with the AY's programs, how does it link Singapore with the best in class of tech hubs globally, like Silicon Valley, Shenzhen, or even London? Yeah.
Good question, Nick.
Yeah, very, very good question. I think ultimately that's the whole purpose, right? I think as we talk about it, education alone cannot solve all this, you know, kind of new needs or requirements, or to complete all the preparation. I think as we mentioned about it, we need different or lots of inputs, I think, from the relevant parties, right? No matter the academia, no matter industry partners, but we also need the government, we need the regulators, we need the industry association, we need basically everyone, practitioners, participants, I think, in the industry, together, I think, to craft it in a way, the continuous learning, I think, is not just for the actual practitioner, but actually for everyone. I think everyone are actually, you know, learning as when the whole industries are evolving. I think things, I think just like what Professor David talked about, is moving in lightning speed. Lightning speed in a way is changing, I think, you know, the existing model or the previous model, but creating newer models that won't stop, right? So the models, I think, is not only in terms of, you know, what are necessarily required, I think, for the new talents, but also in terms of, you know, how we set forth the new world as to the new norm, right? The new norm will keep up, you know, changing, so there'll be more new norms ultimately. So I think it's then also not about a particular new situation or areas, I think, to exist or emerge, I think, in a particular place, right? Because the whole world, I think, are getting interconnected and, you know, more digitally connected, you know, like no time before. So I think it will be a world that we look into, but I think if you look into closer areas, I think it will be the regionalization will be something very much important, and with lots of influential power towards a new norm. So I think it will be very much important that, well, first of all, this professional destination, I think administered by GFI, is not something local. It's an international destination. That's number one. And number two, that I think when we see this professional destination, and alongside with the many different educational plus practical learning blended models of programs that are promoted and supported by AMTD, for example, like the XC program is already a blended mode that, I think any participants in the program will get the two universities expertise, but at the same time, to be able to come to Hong Kong to get a good taste or seeing the AMTD SpiderNet, Greater Bay, and also going into China, I think to visit the Xiaomi University, understand more about their global IoT platform. But this is just one of the different programs. And as we talk about the Advice Cybersecurity Center, we focus a lot into grooming the cyber talents, data talents, and across all these different programs. I think then going back to Annie's another favorite words, connecting dots, right? So we are connecting all these dots together, providing a more comprehensive program, blended places again, but blended the different programs that we have, and hopefully creating something very comprehensive for talents development in Singapore, but beyond that. So I think you see that, for example, like for the Advice Cybersecurity program, we bring in university from all the way from North America. We have the University of Waterloo. We bring in the online learning mobility platform IQ4. We bring in also the center is headquartered in Singapore, but we bring in also the Hong Kong government's wholly owned cyberport. So that I think all these different dots together, will be important that we deliver something more comprehensively supporting talents development.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll come back to you again on connecting the dots and more about your SpiderNet. My next question is actually for Annie, because Prof. David talked about the digital divide. So I would like to ask Prof. Annie, what are the common misconceptions people have on the future of learning? Does it always have to be tech skills? How can we combat these misconceptions and communicate more effectively?
Thank you very much, Hock Lai. I think if you recall, about 2 weeks ago, we have the SSG Learning Festival. And at the SSG Learning Festival, the Institute of Adult Learning actually launched, and the Institute of Adult Learning sits within SUSS. So, the dots are getting connected faster than this panel could put together. So at the launch of the study, which was done by IAL, they actually came up with a set of critical core skills. And I'm so pleased. I will be more than happy to direct you to the website. It's actually skillsfuture.sg /skills framework, critical core skills. And you will be delighted to know that actually the critical core skills are divided into 3 pots. It's thinking critically, one pot, and in that, you can learn the skills from young. The schools are doing it. It's about creative thinking, problem solving, sense making, transdisciplinary thinking. I think once we go deeper into higher ed, we tend to specialize. But our ability to bring the world together in a comprehensive manner should start very young. And our kids should be very open to the liberal arts, to humanities, to science, to technology. I think that makes for a bigger, better world. Then the second pillar is interacting with others. I am a strong advocate of communication skills. I think you may have the best idea, the best digital strategy, and if you cannot get buy-in from your stakeholders, half the battle is lost. So, we want you to know how to interact even in digital age. The more you need to be human, the more you need to have high touch and not just high tech. So there's a whole pot of collaboration skills, building inclusivity, customer orientation, developing people, influence skills, and comm skills. That is life skills, my friends. That is skills that you grow with as you get older and you get better. But when you are young, you need to learn and practice and use it consciously. Then the last part is where we are talking this whole morning, staying relevant. The world is changing fast. You need to go speed to market. I don't care what major, what degree, whether you have or don't have a degree, you need to be adaptable. Adaptability, digital fluency, global perspective. When we put programs together, like all these programs, you are actually coming to class virtually or physically with a group of people who are from other countries. Your global mindset expanded. Just now, it was music to my ear when I hear David says, you're going to do projects. You're going to have apprenticeship schemes that I hear loud and clear from Kelvin. That is what's going to make the difference. And then you're going to have your network open up. Many of the people, once they become specialists, they are behind the scene and they don't have access like all of you have. I have a lot of access. I've been very fortunate, very blessed. I want to open up those access to everyone who comes and take programs with us. So those are the global perspective and learning agility and self-management. I think even as you get older, you also need to prevent distraction and have self-management. So see, Hock Lai, my agenda is full. I cannot imagine anybody going through life not being excited about learning because there's so much to learn out there. Thank you.
What I learned from you is that now not only we need to be high tech, we need to have high touch. We also need to be highly connected. Yeah. I think, and that's what all the panelists in this panel is talking about. So I would like to ask Patrick, what is one piece of practical advice you would give to someone starting out? We have a lot of young graduates graduating this year in one of the biggest pandemic of our lifetime. Patrick?
Yeah, thanks, Hock Lai. I think most of the points have been covered by Annie, David, and Kelvin. Yeah, because they have been interacting a lot with students, and of course, giving very useful advice. Talking about staying ready with the new skills, relevant to the new jobs, and of course, resilient to the new changes. But I think one key thing which I feel very important, and I've seen candidates, whether they are fresh graduates from our IHLs or mid-career, or even not so young workers who are going to a second career or moving or segueing into a new industry because either of job loss, unemployment, retrenchment. I think one key success factor is industry networking. I think Annie sort of alluded to that, David too, through his programs. I think very, very important is industry network. Be connected to the industry. I think that's one big advice that I would give to all aspiring students as well as learners, as well as those looking to move into whichever industry. I think it's not just the fintech sector. I think be connected to the industry. Yeah, I know many have left the industry but want to reconnect back. But because they've not taken active and proactive steps in establishing that connection, they are finding it a bit more difficult and harder. So in whatever industry that you have a passion for and you're deeply interested in, stay connected with that industry and maintain that industry network. Because say all you want, I mean, I've been looking at all the placement stats and how people get into jobs and land themselves into the new jobs. Those who are well connected in industry tend to have a higher success rate in landing themselves in a job in that industry. So I urge everyone, I mean, students, all the entire spectrum. I mean, now it's everyone. Yeah, we are all in that journey together.
Thank you, Patrick. Maybe I would like to share one of the study we did. Singapore FinTech Association did with PwC Singapore last year. We asked the FinTech employers, where do they get their new candidates? 87% are from personal referrals. So that speaks a lot about connectivity. Yeah. So my last question, we have many questions from the audience. So my last question is to Kelvin. First of all, thank you for donating the scholarships and to support the SCFTP program to allow more students to pursue this professional destination. I noted the name of the scholarship is the AMTD GFI SpiderNet. Can you share with us what is SpiderNet? Kelvin?
Sure. I think for the AMTD journey that I've been building the company, I have not been, found it interesting that I want to build just anything on a singular basis, a particular business line, focusing on a particular product. What I want to build is actually, community, connectivity, and also ecosystem. So I believe that I think in this new world, I think it's really about partnership. It's also about, the stickiness, I think, with your customers, with your clients, with your different interactive, partners, right? So I think this will be very much important, that I want to create the connectivity base of AMTD, including our shareholders, our different stakeholders, our clients, our friends, our partners, and now that today, right, GFI also become, a new friend, a very important friend to our ecosystem as well. So I think same as for the students, right? We see that it will be very much important that we make it, an open platform, creating more opportunities, I think, out of the overall. And I see that, I think we talk about ecosystem, when we talk about partnership, the whole purposes, I think, of the overall is really about value creation. I mean, not only creating values for your own self, creating values for, one or the other, but it's really about creating more values. Otherwise, cannot be done by your own self, or maybe creating values out of your non-core. So I think people usually miss it off, think that, well, there are lots of core values that they will build it out from the core businesses, but then there are also some hidden crown jewel that otherwise, when you find the right partner, doing the right, partnership at the right time, then you're creating more values, right? So I think in the creating values out of the non-core, I think it's also some of the, the core themes that we see that, we want to, maximizing the value creation power for everyone within the network. So when we say that the ecosystem, I think is an ever-growing one, and it wouldn't be just my ecosystem, because when I interact with any of my different, business partners, friends, they also have their own or proprietary ecosystems. Ultimately, it's interconnecting with the outside world and creating the stickiness, empowering the connectivity. And ultimately, when you see that, Professor David Lee talk about the buzzword, the beacon, right? I also have the forwards, right? When we talk about it out from the AMTD forwards, right? Basically, I see that, for anyone, when you want to take charge of your future, be responsible, embracing, not only the work front, but also the education front, be someone more valuable to your organization or also to your own self. I think it's really focusing on the forwards. Think about it as creating a memorable, transformational, and defining journey for your own self. And that actually is an AMTD forward, right? So, that's pretty much it from my end. I think hopefully more people, I think, welcome to connect with me if you want to find out more about the spider net. I think I can guarantee you that there wouldn't be poison within the net. I think it's only vitamin.
Thank you, Kevin. Unfortunately, we are also running out of time. I think I would like to get the panelists to maybe give one or two words of encouragement to our audience. I think
I do last. First.
Okay, then maybe start off with Prof. Annie.
The one I do last.
You do last, okay. Gentlemen first for this, Patrick. Yeah. Any final thoughts on this topic?
Yes, like I said, I think I think each and every one of us, I think not just organizations, not just employers, not just society, individuals, including you and me, I think really need to stay really relevant and resilient. I can't emphasize more the need to do that. We've been talking about this. We're talking about agility, adaptability, and of course, ability at the same time. But I think during this period of time where things are so in flux, the change is so certain and real, and at such breakneck speeds, I think it's important for us to continually ensure that we stay really relevant and resilient. Definitely a key must-have in this new age and this new future of work and the new work agenda.
Thanks, Patrick. Prof. David?
Yes, I just have to add this to leave it to everybody, is that perhaps hopefully we can all think of ourselves as part of the open blockchain, ecosystem where we all, doesn't matter it's organization, individual, we are all a node in this entire ecosystem. And don't switch off, don't be irrelevant and not part of this network. We can all independently function, but we all have a common objective or collaborating for a common good output, thinking about serving the entire ecosystem so that not only I or my organization is relevant, but the entire ecosystem have the same common objective, and then the network effect will grow. So if you can have the kind of mindset, hopefully GFI is one of the node that can play that role, then that is my wish that I'll leave it with everybody to think more about.
Kevin?
I think 3 points or recommendation. One is, stay open mind. I think openness, I think, is very much important. I think in this society, right? Everything is open platform and the open connectivity. I think so that's for one. And number 2, I think is go comprehensive instead of focusing too narrowly in one singular item or topic, but then be comprehensive, holistic. And finally, I think it's look globally, regionally. I think stay awareness of what's happening around the world, because the worlds are changing in lightning speed. So be aware of what's happening and stay hungry to continuously learning and upskilling yourself.
Annie?
The camera come to me already. Thank you very much. I think this has been a wonderful, amazing conversation, and I'm so encouraged. All right, when we go to school, every time when we started off in school, we all learn our ABCs. So I'm going to finish up with ABC. I think for all of us out there, everyone on the panel, adaptability is so critical. Everything that Pat says about relevant, resilience, and what David said and what Kelvin said about open-mindedness is about being adaptable. So A is adaptability. We will have stages and different points in our life, and changes are coming hard and fast. We should not be afraid to change. So the second is B, standing for bold. Do not be afraid. Boldness is a good thing. Boldness is not recklessness. I'm not asking you to be reckless, but when I ask you to be bold, is be fearless. And I think courage is a wonderful thing to have. So embrace new changes, embrace technology, embrace a different sector, because there are so many options out there to help you retool for a new sector. And the last is a recurring theme. We cannot do this on our own. So C stands for collaboration. So collaborative is the only way forward. I think the vision and the mission that David was trying to articulate is we are democratizing not just education. We are also democratizing the availability to technology, to making a better world together. If you look at my bookcase, there is a book, and that is the mission of SMU in the next decade, to imagine better. But we cannot imagine better on our own. We can only imagine better collaboratively. So I will send you off, all right, learning your ABC. So thank you very much, Hock Lai, for giving me this opportunity.
Thanks, Prof. Annie, for your ABCs. Be adaptable, be bold, and be collaborative. And thank you for the panel for your very insightful sharing. I learned a lot too today. And ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, due to time, we have to come to the end of today's program. Thank you for taking your time off from your busy schedule to join us in this MOU signing ceremony and the exciting panel discussion. I wish you a pleasant day and an enjoyable week ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
everyone.
Kevin, thank you, Annie.
Have a good day ahead.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Hock Lai. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.